Administrator Regan, again, we thank you for joining us today and responding to our questions. You know, I want to ask a couple of questions. Well, one is deals with investments in state and tribal air offices in permitting. It's easy to forget how large a role that the states, tribes, and local governments play in implementing our clean air laws. EPA's budget provides, I think, $423 million. It's $423 million. It's a $158 million increase over fiscal 2023 in financial support to tribal, to state, and local partners to implement air quality management programs, including air permitting. My question, could you please provide our committee with some insights on why these additional funds to states, to tribes, and to local governments are needed, and how could these funds help with local air permitting and other local air and climate issues?
Well, it's a great question, Senator, and you know, as you know, that for most of our water and state programs, we give delegated authority to the states for the implementation. So again, 85% of our budget request on average goes to our state, local, and tribal partners. They use these resources to, number one, do a lot of public engagement, not just with communities, but with the companies that reside in their districts, those who are regulated by the agency. Number two, they invest in air quality monitoring and other practices to be sure that they have the latest and greatest data so that the permits can be set at the accurate levels. And so again, these state agencies know their communities better than the federal government. That's why they need these resources to continually engage, not only with the regulated community, but the communities that are impacted by the pollution.
All right, thanks. Thank you. Another question dealing with certainty and predictability, heavy-duty NOx rule. Throughout my time in public services, it's been a while. I hear more often than not that from the private sector about the need for federal government and state government and local governments as well to provide certainty and predictability. I hear it all the time. Businesses need predictability and certainty to make long-term investments and decisions. That is especially true for vehicle and engine manufacturers who are making investments today for the vehicles of the future. This past December, I was fortunate enough to join your celebration of the signing of heavy-duty vehicle NOx rule. This rule will reduce smog contributing pollution from our heavy-duty vehicles by 48% by 2045, 48% by 2045. I believe many companies were there celebrating with us. Here's my question. How is the heavy-duty vehicle NOx rule a good example of an EPA action that's good for public health and good for predictability and certainty for businesses that need it and ask for it all the time? Go ahead.
It's a great example of how under this administration we have engaged with industry, with unions, with our communities to try to get the best technology standards possible. And so we are proud of this rule. We engaged heavily with the industry, looking at where the markets and the technologies are going. We engaged heavily with the unions to ensure that there wasn't an adverse impact, but actually a jobs component to this. And we engaged with those communities, especially vulnerable communities that are disproportionately exposed to NOx emissions. Where we think we calibrated this action was towards a rule that satisfies all three constituencies. We're going to do the exact same thing as we continue to roll out other technology standards for the transportation sector. Looking forward to rolling something out in coming weeks on greenhouse gas emission reductions for heavy duty and light duty as well.
All right, thank you. I'm going to ask another question. Would you elaborate on how streams and adjacent wetlands are very directly connected to the health of our nation's navigable waterways? Is that why the 2023 Waters of the U.S. Rule includes protections for streams and wetlands?
Absolutely. We know that the Clean Water Act requires that we protect and not degrade our streams and our wetlands. We also know that our wetlands serve as natural filters to reduce pollution to some of our larger bodies of water. And so it was really important for us to be sure that we were protecting not only our ecosystem and our waterways, but giving our farming community, our ranching community, the flexibility to perform the way that they normally do, which is in a protective manner. We have done our best to look at multiple exemptions, codify certainty, and while also following the law to be sure that we don't expose ourselves to litigation while we're protecting the ecosystem. We try to strike that balance. We understand that everybody's not satisfied, but we're trying to follow the law, follow the science, and work with our partners like USDA to be sure that we're not overly burdening our ranching and farming community.
All right, thanks. I'm going to ask you to elaborate by responding for the record on how the 2023 rule responded to concerns from stakeholders and is narrower than the 2015 Obama rule on isolated wetlands. I'll ask you to respond for the record on that.
It's a much...
For the record.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
okay.
on the record, yeah. Thanks. All right, Senator Sullivan's rejoining. Senator Sullivan, please.